Hi everybody, this is the Basement Vagrants podcast coming at you with another episode. With a little bit of a lineup change, I'm afraid. With me, of course, as always, in the same room as Bubs.
Hey-o.
But we are down one Shweitzer this episode. Shweitzer couldn't be here today. I don't really know why. He said something about having to leave to a private island to destroy some documents that his friend Jeffrey left lying around. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, he's feeling a little depressed, so nothing happens to him.
I kid. But yeah, Shweitzer isn't with us, which is unfortunate because he seemed very very keen on reviewing this new movie on Netflix called Cuties.
Oh.
He said it was one of his favorite movies of all time. He's watched it 3 times already in 10-minute increments. I don't know what that means, but he was really excited to talk about that. I promised I wouldn't make fun of him. But
yeah, off to the island with him.
Anyway, he'll be back next time. But in the meantime, we got a movie to talk about. But first, let's get the sad stuff out of the way right off the start. I know it's a few weeks out now, but it was a kind of a shocking piece of news to find out that Chadwick Boseman had died.
Yeah.
That we all know as Black Panther from the Marvel movies, which was quite a shock because I never knew he was sick.
That's a huge one too, because and I mean he worked, I guess, right up until the end without telling anybody.
Colon cancer, I think it was.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah, and that's why I never knew about it, because he kept it a secret, and he was only 43 years old.
Can you imagine the wrench that would have threw in the Marvel universe if that happened before, like, say, Avengers Endgame or whatever was?
Well, sure, that would have completely changed that, but it's always sad when, like, one of these young upcoming stars, like when Anton Yelchin died, he was even younger. Mm-hmm. Anton Yelchin was like 27. But yeah, God, this guy's career is probably, just getting started. Like, not just the Marvel movies, but he was in, he's been in a few movies. He was in, was it 23, where he played that baseball player?
Oh, no, 42.
42.
That's right, he was.
He was in that. He had a couple other big roles, but of course...
He was good in that, too. Really good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, I liked Black Panther, but not really for him. I wasn't a huge fan of the performances of the acting in the movie. It was a really great, like, visual movie. It looked really cool and was really creative in that manner, but I never saw him as, like, one of the standout characters in Marvel. But he's also playing a character that's, I don't think, is very interesting.
Right.
But who knows what he could have done afterwards.
He was going to be a big star, I think.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Especially because, I don't want to get political, but they're pushing the whole diversity in Hollywood thing, which means they're trying to push more black movies, black stars and everything. And he was probably going to be one of the guys that were going to build that whole movement around, just because he got so much fame and notoriety in the Marvel movies and everything else. And he's a talented actor. And so that kind of...
There's a couple black actors who seem to be getting a lot of work lately. Him and Glover. What's the guy's name? Not Danny Glover, the younger kid. He was the Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I'm bad with names.
His name's Glover. And who's the other one? Michael B. Jordan. Mm-hmm. From Creed and all that.
Idris Elba's gotten a lot of movies too.
Oh, he's in all. I'm thinking about younger guys.
Younger guys, okay.
But yeah, I mean, these guys are really got a rocket up their asses in Hollywood. It's really a shame to see guys had a wife and kids too. Like, fuck, man.
It's amazing how some of these guys can just keep going without, telling it. Like, that's a major thing to keep a secret, especially of how big he was getting, and then just all of a sudden, poof, there it goes.
He was going in chemo, wasn't he? Wasn't he undergoing chemo?
I think so.
I think he was.
Well, this takes me back to one of my favorite musicians who kind of went through the same thing, Ronnie James Dio. He was touring up until he couldn't anymore. He just came into the room one day and says, "Yeah, I've been dealing with stomach cancer for like the last year and a half." Didn't tell the bandmates, didn't tell anybody other than his wife, and then that was it. He's like, "Gotta cancel the tour. I've gone as far as I can go. I can't keep doing this. I have to go into the final stages of treatment." And then he ended up dying like a month later. But it's just amazing how much people will bury stuff just to kind of keep going and doing what they love. Maybe he knew that there was no coming out of it, so he just kept going until the end.
Yeah, well, wanting to go as far as he can and make as much money as he could for his family, I suppose. Mm-hmm. It's pretty. I always find it pretty heroic when people do that, when they don't tell anybody and they just, weather the storm quietly and stiff upper lip and what's that meme? Carry on and
keep calm and
carry on type thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's definitely sad.
For sure.
So.
Is there anything... I don't pay attention to news very much anymore. Usually it's Shweitzer that brings up news stories to me. Is there anything you want to talk about that's been going on?
Not overly. I mean, you were mentioning something about Mulan or something. Earlier,
yeah, I don't even know if I want to talk about it. It's such a...
care. I had... there's a lot of talk about that movie, and I guess Disney Plus is like charging an extra $20 or $30 on top of the subscription to watch that. Like, well, God, another Disney remake, and you're gonna...
That's not why I'm disgusted with it. Have you heard of the controversy between that movie and the Muslim concentration camps in China?
I've heard rumors of those being a thing. I don't know what the correlation to that movie is, though, about it.
Well, it is a thing, and it's been going on for a little while now, and it's kind of shocking, but also not shocking how kind of the media has been trying to ignore it and not really talking about it.
Which is ironic when you think about it.
Well, that China money, man. That China money looks really good, especially right now when theaters are not doing so well and movie companies are not doing so well. Mm-hmm. So the thing with Mulan is it was filmed in China in Xinjiang province.
Okay.
And Xinjiang is where the Uyghur Muslim internment camps, concentration camps, wherever you want to call them, are being held. And in the credits of the Mulan film, in the section marked "Thank Yous," it says, "Thank you to Publicity Department of CPC Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region Committee." So they thanked, in the credits of this movie, they thanked the Muslim internment camps.
Oof. Oof.
Which...
The irony of liberal Hollywood doing that. They're in an uproar because they claim there's cages on the Mexican border. But they're okay with this if they can get some of that sweet money.
Sweet China bucks.
Oh my God.
Plus you can't blame it on Trump. So they're not interested.
Well, because they know it's a battle that they, can't really do anything about. And they just can't fight. Like, they know it's a no-win situation. And if they say anything, China will not mess around with you.
Yeah.
Whereas, you can say whatever you want in the U.S. without any major repercussions. So you just spout your mouth off.
And you had mentioned earlier, we had briefly talked about this, that about separating politics from the product, from the art, from the real world. And I get that, and I understand that. But to thank them in the credits of the movie, that really disgusts me. Like, imagine a movie made in the 1940s where they thanked Dachau, or they thanked Auschwitz. Like, even if the movie was great, wouldn't you feel kind of disgusted watching that movie?
Yeah.
And now, I'm not saying that these Uyghur Muslim internment camps are as bad as that, but I've read stuff about the Muslim detainees who are just being rounded up simply for being Muslim. They're not criminals. They haven't committed any crimes. I've read reports of them being like force-fed pork and being forced to like deny their religion and like desecrate Qurans. Like, it's not quite, the Holocaust, but it's pretty goddamn bad.
Well, it sounds like what the Americans were doing to the Japanese during World War II.
Yeah.
So you should see the irony in all
Has
that.
George Takei spoken up about this? I wonder.
See, this is different, though, than what I'm talking about. Like, this is actually something that's relevant and legitimate and people should be disgusted by. My biggest problem is every time a movie comes out now, it's they're looking for political messages in it, or there's a political agenda in the story, or people are looking for agendas that aren't there. And it's just that entire with every single movie comes out now. It seems like they got to throw it out on a political site to have two sides arguing about a movie coming out.
Yeah,
I know a lot of it's just publicity stuff, but this,
like. I know I agree, and I hate how every movie that comes out, everything that happens, there has to be a controversy. They have to dig up some old tweets from somebody involved. Something has to happen, but I think this is worth getting upset about.
Absolutely.
I think this is this kind of I had no interest in seeing Mulan. I don't care. I haven't seen any of the other live action Disney remakes or whatever. I'm certainly not going to see it now. But just the thought of watching a movie and at the end they thank the internment camps that were a stone's throw away, like, oh, thanks for keeping the screams of the poor Muslims down to a minimum while the cameras were rolling. It just makes my skin crawl, man. I find that disgusting.
Yeah, but originally I didn't even know that like Muslims were a big problem in Asia. Like, I didn't know they were.
Apparently, there's more than 1 million of them detained.
Wow.
Which, yeah, I'm surprised there are that many there. And like,
and this gets no mainstream attention either.
I've seen it a couple places. I don't typically read news, but you know how eventually sometimes you just come across stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of mainstream coverage. And you compare it to the Japanese internment camps, and it's very much like that. But I think you can even make the case that it's worse because at least in the time of Japanese internment, I'm not justifying anything they did, but they were just attacked by the Japanese. We were at war, and people were scared.
Yeah.
You know, it's not... It was the 1940s. Like, people weren't as sensitive back then. You can kind of at least understand where it came from. This is just people... You know, I'm sure, like, threats of terrorism are still a thing. But these are just people living in China. And because of their race and religion, they're being thrown into a camp for no reason.
And if I recall, the Japanese internment camps didn't last too long. They realized really quick, okay, they're not all spies, blah, blah, blah. They worked through that pretty quick. They weren't treated great, but I'm pretty sure they weren't doing stuff nearly to the level of
probably
what they're
not.
doing to people. Because I'm pretty sure over there, that means they're probably taking away their homes, they're probably taking away their
Probably.
I mean, it's starting to look like Germany in the 1940s. I'm pretty sure with the Japanese camps, they were released, they just went back to their homes, did whatever. Not justifying it again.
Yeah, I don't want to get any
fucked, but
I don't want to get any hate mail from George Takei on this.
This is levels that are.
Yeah.
You know, it's just stuff like that just makes me less and less care about Hollywood and TV and movies because you just see all the dirty business that comes out about it.
Oh, yeah.
The Weinstein thing and the political maneuvering and these
I don't
getting money from that.
I don't want to get into this, but and then like you add on to that like the new rules they've added for what can and can't be nominated for the Oscars, which is just so beyond the level of stupidity I thought even far left Hollywood can sink to. Mm-hmm. Where the you can't be nominated for Best Picture unless you have a race quota, and not only that, but like a quota of races behind the scenes.
Yep.
Like in
there's
the production
so many
crew.
boxes now to get an Oscar. And
I don't even want to talk about it because there's not much to say other than this is incredibly stupid. But they're just. It seems like they're so out of touch that they don't understand that this is partly what's murdering them. Like this is going to hurt them.
You've lost so much of an audience already to the point that you're desperately doing whatever you can to get people to watch this show, and you just keep piling on and piling on. Do you really think that's so? You're basically trying to help a minority of society. When you really think everybody's going to sit down and watch that now from those minorities, go, wow, Oscars are helping us out now, so I guess we better tune in next week and see who won. Yeah. No, it's just going to drive more people away. In
a time when the viewership is down more than ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, next year they're not even going to have any films to nominate. Right. I've heard that they've relaxed their standards over what can and can't be nominated for a film, which I'm guessing means that Netflix movies will now be able to be nominated or whatever. Because I mean, what do they got?
Right.
I looked on Box Office Mojo the other day. Actually, I think I probably still have it on my browser on my phone. You know what the highest grossing movies for 2020 are?
Gotta be whatever came out in early January and February.
Number 1, Bad Boys for Life. The highest grossing movie of 2020, making $204 million.
Domestic?
Worldwide.
Wow.
I believe.
Well, yeah, because China was pretty much shut down by February.
Number 2, 1917. Which I still haven't seen.
I thought that came out last year. I watched it.
There are last year's movies on this list because there's so few movies, right?
I like 1917. It was alright.
Sonic the Hedgehog, number 3, 146 million. Jumanji, The Next Level. Star Wars, the new one, Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm. Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Doolittle.
Wow.
That movie that kind of came and went with
who was in that?
Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Yeah. The Invisible Man, Call of the Wild. Like, these are the highest grossing movies. The 10th highest grossing movie of the year made $62 million worldwide. Like, that's how much they're hurting right now.
Right.
Whereas, like, 2018 was Endgame, right? Mm-hmm. It's probably the last movie to hit $1 billion.
Yeah.
That was just less than 2 years ago. Like,
well, you know what? I hope Hollywood is crippled by this.
I hope so too. Like, they
deserve it.
They need to hit rock bottom and realize that nobody likes this ultra woke crap. Nobody likes you.
They hit the critical ultra woke crap. That's the worst part of it. This Mulan controversy is case in point. Fucking the hypocrisy of it all.
Yeah. And people will say, I've heard this defense of like, well, people are, of course, you know, we used to say, well, you complain about illegal immigrants being held in cages at the border, but you say nothing about the Muslims in China. And people say, well, that's happening on our soil, not in other countries. But that doesn't stop anybody from complaining about what happens in other countries.
So we shouldn't have complained about the Jews being exterminated in World War II?
That's like a million miles away. That doesn't affect us at all.
Which actually kind of was their mentality.
Yeah, it was
until
Pearl Harbor happened. Like, oh shit, I guess we got to take this.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we'll just send a few supplies to Europe, but you know, we're not going to get involved. And then
they're sending them to camps. I send my kid to camp. It's fun. They learn to canoe.
Right.
Anyway, we started the show off dark. Let's turn to something a lot more happy. Let's turn to something a lot more happy and joyous, and that's Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Be excellent to each other.
You're hearing that, China? Better pay attention, China.
Yeah, I noticed how Genghis Khan wasn't in this one.
Yeah, that's right.
He's fine. He's fun-loving. He likes to go to malls, play baseball. He didn't rape half the fucking population of the continent.
So Bill and Ted Face the Music came out a couple weeks ago, I think. Mm-hmm. It actually played in theaters. Shockingly enough, theaters are open to some sort of capacity, but you and I saw it on a home release somehow. And interestingly enough, I mean, this happens a lot where new sequels come out to movies made 20 years after, and it's like, oh, geez, they're making a sequel to, you know, whatever.
Dumb and Dumber did it. Blues Brothers did it.
But these this was written by the original writers, creators, and the stars of Bill and Ted Face the Music. All the original guys were in on it. I thought originally that it was directed by the guy who directed the originals, but turns out it wasn't.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess we'll just start it off. What did you think of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
It was okay.
It was okay?
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It felt like it was maybe made 10 years too late. I think it might have been a little better if the guys just didn't look so old.
You really think that? I didn't think they looked too bad. I think Keanu Reeves looked fairly old, which is strange because he looks pretty young he looks good in the John Wick movies.
Maybe they wanted to make him look older.
I don't think Alex Winter looked that much older. I mean, he looked older, obviously, but he didn't look as bad as Keanu Reeves did. Not that Keanu Reeves isn't a beautiful man. He is, but I didn't look at them and be like, oh, geez, they look terrible. I thought they looked fine.
Maybe because I'm just so used to seeing those two characters so young.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been 30 years, so, I mean...
I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed the music in it.
Yeah.
And that's a big selling point for me is music in movies. I mean, that was pretty much the saving grace of Blues Brothers 2000, which I thought...
I still haven't seen it.
Was not great. It wasn't funny. It felt like a cash grab. But the music performances in it were phenomenal.
Well, I mean, that's Blues Brothers. That's
right.
half the fun of the movie.
That really feels like the only reason they even made the movie. Like, let's just get some of the greatest blues musicians.
And we'll write a story later.
Here, and we'll just, I don't know, we'll slap something together. Yeah. Slap a few car chases in it. It'll be fine. I mean, they weren't really treading on too much original ground here. They were kind of doing the time travel thing again this time, only with gathering up some of the most famous musicians, which I really liked. I liked the young Louis Armstrong and the young Jimi Hendrix, and then they're exploring aspects of music that I think a lot of people just don't even think of, like the African drummer there and the Chinese flautist.
Which, do you know if that character's based on anyone real? The Chinese lady? I know the caveman wasn't, obviously, but...
Right. I'm not 100%.
Because I thought that was weird, where they go back in time and they find Louis Armstrong, or Hendrix, and then Louis Armstrong, and then some ancient Chinese flautist and a caveman? Like, you couldn't think of anybody else. Oh, and Mozart. Mm-hmm. But those last two were kind of weird. It's like, oh, you just made up two random characters?
I was also very confused about... what was his name? Cody or Cuddy? The
Kid Cudi? Yeah, the rapper who I had never heard of.
Is he a legitimate rapper?
He's actually a rapper.
Okay.
I've heard the name.
Probably was.
I've heard the name Kid Cudi. I don't know anything about him because I'm not into the rap scene, but
yeah,
I know he's actually a modern day contemporary rapper. I liked the movie. My sense, if I were to sum it up in one sentence, it would be it was a fun mess because it was a very messy movie. It didn't make a lot of sense. Things jumped around really. There's like 4 different plot lines going on at once. Nothing really makes sense when you think about it.
Which you don't. You just don't.
But I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, me too.
I got this good feeling of like, this is just kind of fun, and I'm kind of losing myself in the silliness of it, and I like these characters, and it's like, it was very escapist. I know we've talked lately about how real world is seeping into entertainment so much. Like you were talking about how baseball is trying to shove political messages down your throat, and you were lamenting like, I just want to escape from the world and watch a game.
Yeah.
I felt watching this movie, I was like, this is like really good escapist, good like heartwarming escapist entertainment. I really liked it.
I did like the message at the end was they were just bringing everybody together with music. It wasn't trying to shoehorn like, oh, we're not diverse enough, or there's a patriarchy, or all this other stuff. It just bring everybody together with one common thing. And I missed that about, instead of trying to divide everybody into subgenres, is everybody come together, do your thing that makes you happy or that makes sound, and everybody just play the song together. And I thought that was a cool message that they were sending at the end, and it worked out for them.
And I think, I don't want to get too hyperbolic here, but in the times we're living in 2020, I think a Bill and Ted movie is kind of the movie we needed. Even if it's just an afternoon where you watch it and kind of forget about your troubles. Because Bill and Ted, maybe more than any other movie characters in history, are just so positive and lovable and just fun and silly, and there's nothing negative. There's no villain in the movie. This movie doesn't have a villain. The villain is the time catastrophe that's happening for some reason.
Well, and kind of Rufus's widow there is a bit of a villain.
But that's like one plot line within 5 plot lines, and like you can take her out of the movie and it's not going to make much of consequence. Yeah, she's kind of a villain, but she's not really
she
that
does murder them all.
Yeah, but then they murder. She murders them all, and they
fine.
all go to hell, and they're like, "Oh, I guess we're in hell now. Well, that's a bummer. What are we gonna do?" Like
they're not go to hell
because it was in the second movie. Because it was in the second movie.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Like, what did the daughters do wrong? They seemed like pretty nice. They were caring. They wanted to save the world. They wanted to help their dads. Like, nah, you're going.
The robot goes to hell. I didn't even know robots had souls. But whatever.
I know.
The fucking Ted's dad's police van goes to hell. Apparently vans can go to hell.
Run over.
Yeah. Oh god. There's a deleted scene with Kid Cudi.
Right.
That's never gonna see the light of day. What did you think of the daughters?
I thought the one that played Ted's daughter, Keanu Reeves' daughter, fucking nailed it.
She was really good.
She had the mannerisms and the voice inflection, everything right down. I'm like, this is definitely a female fucking Ted.
Yeah, she probably
did okay. She wasn't bad, not great, but she spot on. I'd like to see her do more stuff, maybe.
I liked their performances in the sense that they do really good Bill and Ted impersonations. Like remember the Three Stooges reboot with Will Sasso and whatever them? It's actually a fairly decent movie. I kind of liked it, but the thing was, I didn't think that they were great characters, but they did really good impressions of characters. Mm-hmm. And that's what I thought about these two. They did really good impressions of characters, but they didn't bring anything new to their roles. It was just their young female versions of Bill and Ted, and that's it.
I will say the thing that they brought was they were a lot smarter.
You think so?
In the fact that when they were passionate about something, they learned about it and then they understood like the music stuff. They knew who everybody were. They were well educated in music. They knew what to talk about. True. They knew all the songs. They knew aspects of music. They knew how to put everything. Like, they weren't completely useless at everything they did. Bill and Ted, what can you think of that they were actually good at doing in those
George
movies?
Carlin just told them what to do and they did it.
Right.
They didn't. Yeah, you're right.
Eventually, they learned how to play music. But for the first 2 movies, they really didn't know how to do anything. And these girls, they were immersed in music. And they knew every single little nuance and aspect about music. The history of it and what sounds work together. And so I thought that was a pretty cool thing. Yeah, they come off as ditzy and dumb. But it almost like musically autistic in a way. We just throw throw 1,000 records on the ground, they'll just look at it and go, and can identify every record, sound, and note into it.
When they went back and even beyond the historical figures of Jimi Hendrix and Louis Armstrong, they knew who that. They knew who Mozart was. They knew who that Chinese flautist was. Like, yeah, you're right. They're pretty knowledgeable. Like in the first Bill and Ted movie, Bill and Ted are supposed to be able to like play this song that unites the world, and they don't even know how to play their instruments. Really, they're just kind of dumb music fans, right? So I guess that's true. I just don't. Real professional.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that, and it's not their fault. I don't think they got a lot to do as far as the plot's concerned. Like, while Bill and Ted are doing this mission to find themselves in different timelines, to figure out how to write the song, which was kind of new and original. The daughters were just kind of doing the things that Bill and Ted did in the original movie. Mm-hmm. It's like, we got to go back in time and get the historical figures. Well, why do we have to do that again? It really, their plot really didn't make any difference, because at the end when they do the big song that unites the world, the historical musicians, like, they're playing, but they didn't like need them.
No, you could have got anybody to play
right.
those.
So they're same with the princesses, where their little side quest, which is almost not even mentioned in the movie, is they are apparently going around behind the scenes finding musical instruments to distribute around the universe, I guess.
I thought the point of their quest was to go looking for different parallel unit, which I didn't know that was a thing in Bill and Ted's until this, where they would be happy with Bill and Ted. So they were going from parallel universe to parallel universe to look for a world
right.
But nothing ever came of that.
Didn't they also say at the end that they were the ones who distributed the musical instruments to all the universes?
Yeah. So what do they keep going back in time and
making Amazon orders for tambourines and flutes? Like, I don't know. I don't really get it. Like I said, the movie's a mess. The movie's a mess. So like, they could have had a little bit more to do, but in the same vein, there's so much going on in the movie, you could probably have just cut that out. Mm-hmm. Same with the daughters. Like, my feeling was, either you need to give the daughters' roles more purpose, or just have them with Bill and Ted doing their mission together as a foursome. Yeah. And then you could get more interaction between Bill and Ted and their daughters, which there isn't a whole lot of in the movie. I think that might have been stronger. I mean, really, you could say, well, they didn't necessarily need to be there with Bill and Ted, but at the same time, their whole side quest was pointless. So just stick them with the main characters, because I liked them. I just wanted them to do more or have more of an impact on the movie.
To me, them in this movie, and this is more of the agenda stuff sneaking in a little bit here, did it feel to you, and you didn't watch Rise of Skywalker, I didn't watch Rise of Skywalker, but I get the gist of what happened, is I almost feel like there's a parallel with, and I'm probably looking at something that's not there, but it feels like there's a parallel between this movie and the Star Wars franchise, in that when Return of the Jedi ended, the movie was over, Luke Skywalker was the hero, the Empire was defeated. Then they come up with a new trilogy, and all of a sudden none of that mattered, because the Empire really wasn't defeated, the Sith are still a thing, and it's a daughter that has to come in and save the day, girl power just saves the universe. It kind of almost felt like they did the same thing here, whereas what happened at the end of Bill and Ted 2, where Bill and Ted write the song that saved the world, didn't happen, and it's their daughters now that are actually the ones that write the song or put the song together to save the world, and Bill and Ted were really just in the band. They really weren't the ones that did it.
You thought there might be some sort of agenda behind it?
A little bit, because kind of just, pushing the whole female power thing. Like, even, and again, it's a little thing, but if you remember when they went back and went into the future, it was a bunch of different people sitting on the hover chairs or whatever, and they meet them, and it's a very diverse group. Do you notice this time, all the leaders in the future were all women?
I thought there was one man in there, but maybe I could have been wrong.
Maybe he was off in the background or getting him coffee or something.
Maybe.
So it's minor little things like that I just saw. I was like, are they kind of trying to do this with this?
Well, see, I noticed that the leader of the world in the future is a woman, and I remember seeing that scene. And there's like a black woman there and a Chinese woman, of course, my mind said, "Oh, it's very diverse." But at the same time, this is supposed to be like a wise counsel for the whole world, so it makes sense.
I'm not even talking about the racial difference because it was racial. It was a black dude who was the leader in the first one, which that I don't care.
Yeah,
about.
You're right.
It just really felt like they were just pushing the all female thing.
I noticed that, but I didn't feel like the movie was pushing anything on me.
No,
like it's there, and if you're the type of person who's like, oh look, that's so diverse. I love the diversity. Fine, okay, but they didn't make a big deal out of it.
No, and it was a very minor thing, and I looked the other way because I did enjoy the film. I don't know if this is going to be a movie that I'm going to watch again and again because I don't think it's as impression making as the first two were. But it was. I mean, if you're going to watch the trilogy, it's a decent ending to the trilogy, I guess.
I just thought. I like the movie a lot. Like I said, I just think the writing could have been tightened up a lot. Like it seems like there's a lot that happens that is completely inconsequential. Like the whole subplot of the robot that's following Bill and Ted to kill them, and then once he finds them to kill them, he can't do it, and then he's killed, and then he becomes like a good guy, like Terminator 2, and is like going with them on their adventures.
He became really annoying.
He could have easily been like a Jar Jar Binks kind of character. I actually kind of thought he was funny. I don't know why, because that's a character that I should find annoying. I didn't find him annoying. I thought he was actually kind of funny.
It felt like they were just kind of redoing the Death character from the second movie, only ramping up the annoying level a little more, and it was kind of unnecessary because you had the Death character in this movie again.
I just thought, that whole thing with the robot, it could have been taken out. Nothing came of it. There's a lot that happens in this movie that just nothing comes of it.
And the robot thing was done in the second movie and done way more entertaining with the evil Bill and Ted robots.
Right. I still haven't seen the second one.
No?
But no.
Oh.
I thought about watching it before this, but then I just kind of want to watch the new one.
See, now I'm kind of interested to see what you'll think of the second one, sandwiched in the middle, because I think it's way better than this one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, if I were to rank the two Bill and Ted movies that I have seen, I think Face the Music I like more than the original. I'm not a huge fan of the original. I like it. I've seen it maybe twice.
I wonder, this could be maybe a product of its time thing, whereas I was at the perfect age when that movie came out. So maybe I appreciate the first one a lot more.
When did it come out? What year?
1987, 88.
Yeah, that was the year I was born.
12 years old. So everything that's happening in that movie,
I was one.
I lived through that time. I saw it all. I can relate to those characters. So maybe that's why I can kind of like that movie better.
It's kind of like how when I was a teenager, I was a huge Kevin Smith fan because he hit right at the exact time when I was... Well, I mean, he hit in the 90s, but in that... I was kind of at the right age when I found him.
Yes.
Like when I started watching his movies, I was 14 or 15 or whatever, and I think Dogma had just come out recently, and that was like the perfect age. So,
I think that makes a difference in your perception of a movie.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about this with Harvey the other day. It's like because we're talking about musicians, and I think he was saying like some of the most a list come out of some of the most overrated musicians, and they're putting like AC/DC and Rolling Stones and. People like that, and to a younger person, anybody like 30 and younger, those bands are definitely going to seem overrated. But if you lived through the height of those bands, because one of the names that I threw out there was Elvis Presley. Mm-hmm. But just because I didn't live through the mania of the movies, the first... the Ed Sullivan stuff when he was younger, and then him going off to the military, and him coming back, and his resurgence coming. I didn't live through that, so just looking back at that through historical vision, you're not getting everything from that.
Yeah, that's a good example. I'm not an Elvis fan. I can enjoy his music, and I can take people's word for it that he was really influential and a big thing at the time, but he doesn't do anything for me.
No,
at all.
But people see him like a god, and there's still conventions to this day.
Yeah.
In fact, where we went on our vacation, the little town about 30 miles away does an Elvis Presley convention every year.
That's crazy.
It's huge.
But then compare him to like the Beatles.
Yeah.
Who I wasn't alive for the Beatles, but I love the Beatles music, and a lot of like their music is kind of timeless in a way.
Because it's influenced, I think, so much of the newer music that even still comes out today.
You didn't have to grow up in the 60s to love the Beatles.
No.
At all. So, I mean, it's interesting how some things are a product of their time and some are just live on.
But I think you have to appreciate them more as you get older. And even still, as much as we like and respect the music, we'll still never understand the full grasp of Beatlemania.
Right.
So that kind of relates to...
I guess I can compare it maybe to when I was a kid. I was the perfect age for Pokemon. When the Pokemon cartoon hit, I was 8 years old or something like that. And when the Pokemon trading card game and the Game Boy games first came out, I was like 9 or 10. I was perfect time. I was so into Pokemon. And Pokemon is still popular now, but it's nothing like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was the biggest thing you would ever heard of. It was everywhere. It was like Beatlemania at the time.
Yeah,
and kids...
Pokemania.
Yeah. Kids growing up now probably like Pokemon.
Right.
They don't like it how I liked it when I was 8 years old.
And
I can guarantee.
People my age look at it and it's like, wait, I don't get it. It's these little fucking gibberish. I mean, when I was high, I loved it, but I'll never fully I can appreciate it, but I'll never grasp it like you get it.
Were you talking about Bill and Ted?
Yeah, the first movie, how you don't necessarily see it the same way I see it.
That's true. It's hard to separate nostalgia from
quality.
From the actual product. It's hard to separate your feelings about something from the actual thing itself.
Well, and especially in a movie like this, because you're not necessarily judging it on quality. It's a comedy, so it's what makes you laugh, right? So if you can't relate to some of the stuff that the characters are doing or live through it, then you're not going to get the humor as much. It doesn't. It's not a universal humor. Maybe is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things. I hated Kristen Schaal. I hate Kristen Schaal. She was Rufus's daughter.
Yeah, I mean that's quite the shoe to fill, and I think you could have gotten somebody way better to play that role.
Well, I had thought because she introduced herself as Kelly. I'm like, oh, that's an homage to Kelly Carlin. That's George Carlin's daughter. And then I read on IMDb that in one of the crowd scenes, Kelly Carlin is in it as a cameo. And I'm like, why didn't you get Kelly Carlin to play her? I know she's not, I don't think she's an actress.
No, I don't think so.
But, I mean...
She might not have wanted to.
Maybe, but that would have been cool. I just don't like Kristen Schaal. I've seen her in shows and stuff, and I think she's very annoying. I hate her voice. I don't like her. I don't think she's funny. So I was disappointed to see her in the movie.
Let's keep the character female. Who would you have put in that role?
Geez, out of anybody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'd have to be somebody. Do you go comedian on it? Because
George
Carlin was in it, but he wasn't doing jokes.
George Carlin, other than that opening monologue in the beginning of the first one, where he has that great line that I love, where it said something like, "It's a time of great peace. Bowling scores their way up, mini golf scores their way down." I fucking love that line.
Yeah.
But other than that opening speech, which apparently George Carlin wrote himself, which I thought was great, he doesn't really say anything funny in the movie, which I always thought was weird. Like, why get George Carlin to be in your movie and not give him anything at all funny to say? He was so deadpan throughout that movie, but whatever. What was I going to say? Oh, who could play her? I don't know. Anybody. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a comedic actress.
Okay. Because I don't really know much about Kristen Schaal. I think I've seen her in a couple things, but... She
does a lot of voice acting roles.
Oh, yes, I do remember looking... Yeah, she's on, Bob's Burgers or something.
Yeah.
Does the daughter.
She does a lot of voiceover work. She has a very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Nothing against her personally. I just don't really think
better.
she's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Keanu Reeves and especially Alex Winter. I don't think Alex Winter has lost a step. Keanu Reeves, he seemed a little bit slower. His voice was a lot deeper. He definitely looked older comparatively than Alex Winter looked, I think. I think Alex Winter, it's hard to tell that there's 30 years between these movies. He was spot on. And apparently, from what I heard from the Red Letter Media video, he has barely done any acting since Bill and Ted. He started doing behind the scenes, directing and producing. And apparently, I read on IMDb that he went to take acting lessons, to brush up on his acting skill before doing this movie. I thought he was probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah, he was really good.
I thought he was great.
Keanu is kind of a victim of his own success.
Yeah.
So he starts off as playing characters like Ted, and you just think he's the dude, he's the woe guy, And then he works so hard. Like, I can't see Keanu Reeves doing The Matrix. I can't see him doing Constantine. So he finally builds his legacy up where you take him as a serious actor, and he gets to the point of John Wick where, like, okay, now Keanu Reeves is this badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Now he's got to go back the other way. It's like, I can't see him doing this goofy shtick.
Yeah.
It's like, shit.
It is weird seeing him.
Point where he's away from it.
It is weird seeing him as, stereotypical Keanu Reeves dumb surfer dude after seeing 3 John Wick movies. Right. Where he's just like the coolest motherfucker on the planet.
See, this is why I wish they would have explored the alternate Bill and Ted thing a little more. Like, not the futuristic ones, but when the princesses went to the parallel universe, you could have went to a universe where Bill and Ted are like the John Wick characters.
Yeah.
It just, instead of embracing saving the world, they're out there kicking people's asses to destroy it or something. Or...
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because that was my favorite part of the movie, was them seeing the alternate versions of them. Mm-hmm. Like, they go back to when they're just like playing like VFW halls, and like there's like 4 people in the audience, and they're like bitter, and then they go and they're pretending to be like rich successful musicians to trick them, and then prison Bill and Ted was awesome. Yeah. I thought that was my favorite scene. That was so much fun, because the way those two looked, like it was a perfect balance of, they look just real enough to trick you, but just fake enough for it to be funny. Mm. I don't know. I wasn't fooled by, like, it didn't... They looked weird, but not weird enough that it was off-putting. I liked the look of Prison Bill and Ted, and, like, seeing them in the future was fun, too. Especially, did you see the after the credits thing?
Yes.
I liked... Not really a funny scene, but a nice little capper scene that I liked. That was my favorite part. That was the part I was interested in. And then when it cut to the daughters doing their thing, or, like, the robot stuff, I was kind of like, kind of just want to get back to Bill and Ted. But... I had a lot of fun watching the movie. It gave me a nice feeling.
It was better than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it that. Like I said, I didn't
better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, it's a 21 Jump Street series.
Yeah.
It's syndrome where it's okay. I don't hate, because I hated the Dumb and Dumber movie.
Yeah.
The new one to come out is good. And sequels to comedies rarely work.
Like sequels in general, or sequels made way after the fact?
I'd say both, really. Like, how many comedy... Yeah, you can name a handful. Like Airplane 2, I like that.
I didn't like Airplane 2. It's just all the jokes in the first one rehashed.
That's what I mean.
But with William Shatner.
Dumb and Dumber was the same way. The Naked Gun movies. The first one was great. The second one was good.
I love both sequels to those movies.
The third one, I was kind of...
First one's the best, but I like 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Ace Ventura 2, I think, was pretty good.
Really?
I like the second one a lot, yeah. But yeah, you're probably right. It's hard to recapture that, what makes a movie funny, without just redoing it. Mm-hmm. You know? Like, that's my problem with Airplane 2. It's just, it's like Airplane 2, but on a spaceship. It's like Airplane, but on a spaceship. With William Shatner.
That was kind of the smart thing that Mel Brooks did, is he just did different comedy movies or parodies or whatever, instead of just trying to, like, Spaceballs 2 or Robin Hood Men in Tights 2. He just went on to something else usually.
Well, that actually was a great segment, or segue to what I wanted to talk about afterwards.
Okay.
Which was, I rewatched recently The Big Lebowski. I just picked up the 4K Blu-ray.
I haven't watched that in years.
I watch it every now and then because it's one of my favorite movies. And I don't really have anything new to say about the movie, because what else is there to be said about The Big Lebowski? But one thing it got me thinking of is, I'm so glad that they never made a sequel to it. And they could have, because it sets up with a cliffhanger, because at the end of the movie, well, not really a cliffhanger, but with room for a sequel, because there's that whole plot line of Maud Lebowski having sex with the dude to have his baby, and then that's never resolved. And at the end, Sam Elliott says, and I hear there's a little dude on the way. And it's like, oh, they're setting up for maybe a sequel, but there's never a sequel. And I like that. You could maybe make a good Big Lebowski sequel, maybe, but just best just to leave it alone.
Don't give them ideas.
And it got me thinking to some certain famous movies that never got remade and never got sequels. And I think it's probably because of the director or the producer or who owns the rights to it. Because from what I know of the Coen brothers, they're not the type who would want to make sequels to their movies. Mm-hmm. They're not not that I want to say they don't like making money. They do, but they have enough artistic integrity that they I bet you $1 million that they were approached by studios to make Fargo 2, to make The Big Lebowski 2, to make Raising Arizona 2. I'm sure they were offered because those are big movies, right?
Yeah.
But they turned it down. Another one that I always think of is Back to the Future. It's amazing that Back to the Future's never been remade or had a sequel since the third one.
There's been talks, but
they
haven't done it.
But it's because, from what I've always read, it's because the writer, Bob Gale, he owns the rights to Back to the Future, and he will not let them do it. And my fear is, what happens when Bob Gale dies?
Mm-hmm.
Can
you... I'm
who
sure
gets the rights?
This happening before. I can't remember what movie or what franchise it was. But there was something in a will, I think, at one point where they said you cannot remake this movie. I don't know if it's legally contestable or not, or if it's something you can actually put into a will. But it'd be something if you could, just like, whoever is bequeathed the rights to this movie is never allowed to release a sequel or a reboot or anything like that. I wonder if that holds up in court.
I don't know. I don't know how legally binding wills are when it comes to copyrights.
Right. Intellectual properties. Yeah.
I mean, if Bob Gale died and he said in his will, I don't want Back to the Future ever to have a sequel or to be remade, but the rights get default. I don't know if they would get owned by the estate of him or whatever, but say Universal got the rights to it. What's to stop them from saying, okay, well, we're going to honor Bob Gale's wishes? No, fuck that. There's millions of dollars to be made. They're going to make a sequel if they want. Mm-hmm. I don't know if a court can stop them if they own the rights just because of a will. I'm sure that's not legally binding.
Well, then when do movies, if they do, fall into the public domain? Because I know music does. After so many years, if you don't do something with it, this is why a lot of stuff in the last 20 years has been remastered. Because originally it was going from one format to the other, but then they do something with the master tapes and remaster to either a new format or just remix it slightly, and that gives it another 20 years of life on the copyright as opposed to it eventually falling into the public domain. So I'm wondering if movies go through the same thing.
Well, public domain is different. Public domain, as far as I understand, the rules of public domain go that after a certain amount of time, I think it's 90 years. I think it's 90 years. No matter how much you've done with a property, it will become public domain. Now, rights are a different thing. Rights are not the same as public domain. Because I know Disney has fought the public domain laws for a long time to keep their stuff owned by Disney. But I remember reading an article a while ago that's saying in 3 or 4 years, certain comic book properties are going to be public domain. Conan, because Arthur Conan Doyle wrote it in the early 1900s or something like that. Mm-hmm. So Conan is going to be public domain very soon, and within the next 10 years, Batman will be public domain. Now, not everything about Batman, not every aspect of the character in his whole 80-year run, but the character of Batman will be public domain, unless DC does what Disney is doing and got their crack team of lawyers to convince judges to extend it or to not have it apply or whatever. But from what I can tell, from what I've heard, regardless of who owns the rights, public domain will get you.
Now that makes me wonder then, because do they just have the right to use the image on certain things, or can you license exclusivity to say movies as opposed to just comic books?
That I don't know.
You see, there's so many aspects to it of what all that means.
But there's a few franchises I can think of that it's just amazing. There's never been more. Back to the Future always springs to mind. Mel Brooks has never made a sequel to any of his movies. I mean, there's Spaceballs, the animated series, which was kind of a sequel to Spaceballs, but it was pretty bad. Yep. Mel Brooks has never made a sequel. God bless him. Monty Python's never made a sequel. Quentin Tarantino, unless you want to count Kill Bill, but that was always planned as a two-parter from the beginning.
I don't call it a sequel.
Kind of, but that was always meant to be a movie in 2 parts. Quentin Tarantino's never made a sequel. There's certain filmmakers, Paul Thomas Anderson's never made a sequel to one of his movies. There's certain filmmakers out there who have the integrity to turn down money, I guess. Because I'm willing to bet that if Quentin Tarantino said, I want to make, I'm thinking of making Pulp Fiction 2, they would just throw money at him to make it, right?
Well, what if they said, we'll let you make your Star Trek movie, but you have to make a Pulp Fiction sequel? Would he do it?
I don't think so.
No.
From that guy, from what I know, he would just give him the finger. Now, it helps that he's an established director and has, money for the rest of his life and doesn't need to take these big money. But it just made me think it's nice to know that some of my favorite filmmakers are not gonna. I hate the term sellout because I think it's overused.
Horror
but it's a horror.
It's a big difference. Do what Disney does, basically.
Remember when Pixar used to say they're not going to make any sequels?
Yeah.
They used to say that, and then and then they made all the money in the world with Toy Story and Cars, and well, fuck that.
Yeah. Turn on the machine.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else you watched recently you want to talk about?
I've just been watching season 2 of The Orville finally. I don't know if that's going to keep going or not, but I decided to give the second season a watch, and I gotta say, I am enjoying it. I mean, there's still elements to the show where it's just they Seth MacFarlane some jokes in the middle of something that could be dramatic or serious, but when they do focus on good old-fashioned sci-fi, it's like, here's a problem, we need to fix it, everybody comes together, they do their sci-fi techno-babble stuff, they all run around smart and solve the problem, they go execute the problem, sometimes there's consequences from the problem, sometimes some people die, sometimes a war breaks out. So I mean, they are taking the show seriously, but if they just took it that much more seriously and gave the show a budget, I think you'd have a really high-quality, good sci-fi show on your hands here.
See, that's the one thing that's kept me from watching the show at all is I don't think I could put up with the Seth MacFarlane humor. I don't think I could stand it.
It's small. It's
even still, the fact that there's any of it there at all, I would cringe so hard. Mm-hmm. I would cringe so hard. I hate his humor.
There's definitely cringy moments in it.
And I've heard after the first few episodes of the first season that it kind of there's not as much of it.
No, there's not. And some episodes I don't even notice it. But every once in a while it just kind of sneaks in. But I think because I'm about halfway through the second season where there's very, very little of it. I think he's even realizing that if we go the right way with this, we can actually make something that's going to last for a while and have some continuity and some cognitive storytelling and build a little universe here. But it just needs that one little push to get it there. But the downside is it is Fox, and it also looks like it's suffering from lack of budget to maybe do more things that they could possibly do with it to expand the universe on it.
I always got the feeling that the only reason why Seth MacFarlane jokes humor is in there is that so a studio or the network would buy it.
I think that's exactly why they did it.
Seth MacFarlane's like, I want to make a Star Trek show. We don't need a Star Trek show. Okay, well, I'll put some Family Guy stuff in it. Okay, we can sell that. We can sell, because if you looked at the commercials and the previews for the Orville, that stuff's pretty much what the highlight of the trailers is.
And that goes away real. Like you don't get cutaways. You don't get him fighting a random fucking goofy chicken alien throughout the ship. Like, none of that's there. It's just, they'll start, even just little things, like they'll start like the goofy little banter parts in inappropriate times that just don't fit in the scene. It's like, you take that out of that scene, if you want to throw it somewhere else, fine, but just take that out of the scene, treat it like a serious sci-fi show, and you've got something there. Like I just watched one episode where basically it got really serious, where they're an alien race that they thought were kind of allies turns out is going to try to exterminate the whole fucking their version of the Federation. So and the ending of the episode got really intense, and it's a 2-part episode, and it's like, okay, I'm on board with this show. I like it. If you just polish it a little more, you've got something here. But I got a bad feeling the network's going to kill it.
Well, like I haven't heard anything. I'm surprised that they're still doing new episodes. I kind of thought it was canceled because I haven't heard anything about it.
Keep in mind, season 2 ended, I think, it might even have ended last year. So
okay.
I don't know, but COVID put everything back. But I looked at the numbers, and they're still bringing in like over 3 million an episode.
Are they?
Which isn't
That's
bad,
not too bad,
considering
more than Raw gets, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Like some of the shows on the CW, they're lucky to even hit 1 million. So I don't know. I would think for Fox, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of Star Trek actors crossed over to it. Like Cassidy Yates plays the one that played Cassidy Yates. She plays the doctor on the ship. Robert Ricardo made an appearance. Marina Sirtis made an appearance.
Oh, cool.
There's a few other ones too. Yeah. So
nice.
it's getting
Penny. I'm trying to think of her name. Penny Johnson. She
yes.
plays Cassidy Yates.
So, like it's getting some respect from like the Star Trek universe. Maybe and Jonathan Frakes actually directed an episode.
Oh.
So it's like it's getting the respect maybe just because they're seeing what modern Star Trek is, and they've taken the intelligence and the fun out of that. So the Orville's kind of picking up the slack on that, and who knows, maybe if they do a 3rd and a 4th season, they're just going to dump all the nonsense right out of it, put a budget into it, and let's go forward with this and make it something people want to see.
If I were to give it a shot, is it safe to skip the first couple episodes, or do I need to suffer through that?
Not really. I mean, there's minor continuity, but there's nothing you can't just read a quick synopsis of something and pick up on.
Because if the first couple episodes are heavy Seth MacFarlane humor, I would want to skip that. Because it would really turn me off to it.
Honestly, season 2 is so much different than season 1 when it comes to that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try it. I'm just so hesitant, you know?
I know, and I completely understand your hesitation. Like I said, I was even on the fence about starting up season 2, just because I kind of put it on the back burner and forgot about it. And like, you know what? I'll give the show another go. We'll see if it gets better.
Can't be worse than Picard.
No, at least you won't be. And that's the nice thing. They're not ruining something
yeah.
that you already liked. This
True.
is new but not new. You know, like if they shit on a parody of Star Trek, it's like, oh well. But it's not, to me, it's not even a parody anymore. It's just, it's a ripoff. It's definitely a ripoff. But in this day and age, with what Star Trek's become, I'm more than fine with that ripoff. It's RC Cola to Coca-Cola, I guess you compare it to.
I recently watched a couple movies by a director who I really like, Luc Besson. Mm-hmm. Directed The Fifth Element and La Femme Nikita and Leon the Professional. It's a director that I like. I watched two of his recent movies. One was called Anna, which kind of came out last year. Wasn't in theaters for very much. Didn't get a lot of hype, and then they just kind of threw it on Amazon. And the other one I think was from 2 years ago. Do you remember a movie called Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets?
Sounds familiar.
It's one of these movies. It's one of these like sci-fi, these epic sci-fi movies that kind of comes out and is like this big CGI-laden epic movie, and you can tell they're trying to start up their own universe or whatever, and then it just kind of gets some attention and then goes away. It reminds me a lot of, remember John Carter?
Yeah, there was another one like Mia Kunis in it or something.
And Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
It was called Allegiant or
something like that.
Allegiance? No. I can't remember, but it's one of those.
And the same one with the giant planet city eating thing or whatever they put out a year ago.
Well, I didn't even know that one.
Yeah, there was like this monster. I don't know. It was like this. The cities move and eat other cities, and there's like this post-apocalyptic war type scenario.
Oh my god! Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
I remember
right?
one shot of like this giant vertical city moving through a desert. I don't even know what the fuck that was called.
I can't even remember what it was called, but it looked so dumb, and I never bothered with it.
Yeah, but it's one of those. One of these like these big sci-fi epic masterpieces that just kind of go. Not that it's a masterpiece, but it's like you can tell they're trying to start something big. Especially since the movie's called Valerian, and the city of Valerian's like the main character of the movie, so they're trying to start this big thing. It was okay. I just thought it was interesting because you can tell I read that it's the most expensive movie ever funded in France. It's a French movie, even though it's in English. It cost $158 million, like a really huge production. And, geez, I'm curious to see what it made. But, like, it's just one of these movies that just kind of came and went. It's kind of forgotten, I think. I only watched it because I'm trying to see all of Luc Besson's films. I don't want to go into it too much because, like, you haven't seen it, so there's not much point talking about it. But it was I kind of think of it the way I think of Black Panther, where the world is really interesting, like visually, like all the alien designs look really unique and cool, and the settings and backgrounds look great. The technology is really cool and fun. Like, it was great to look at. I love that. But when it came to the plot and the characters, the glue that holds all that stuff together, it was really boring, and the main character was not likable at all. It's just, it sucked. It very much reminded me of, like, Avatar meets the Star Wars prequels. Because Avatar, same thing, cool design, cool visuals, everything. But the characters in the story were boring, and, it was hard to keep my interest.
Well, and that's the thing with Avatar, is like, who remembers, other than the name of the blue girl, who remembers what the protagonist of the film was even named, or anything about him, other than he was
just generic soldier man.
Right.
I know the character's name was Jai Courtney was the actor, or there's like 4 actors who I always get confused because they look exactly the same. There's like Jai Courtney and like Taylor Lautner and I can't remember, but there's a bunch of like these generic leading man actors that all look the same. Valerian, let's see, worldwide released $225 million on a budget of $177 million. So it made its money back,
barely,
but not a massive success.
Well, and they always say double that budget figure when you come to marketing and everything else. So.
Yeah, so it probably didn't make its money back. Yeah. Only 41 million domestic as well. International, it made 184. But, worth watching if you like these big sci-fi movies and you don't mind a movie that's more visually stimulating than interesting plot-wise. The thing I like the most is the reason why it's called City of a Thousand Planets. In the story of the film, there's a space station. When man starts, going into space, they construct this space station, and then over the course of time they meet other aliens, and those other aliens come to the space station and they set up like their own base on the station. And this is all told really well in the sort of preamble to the movie. And over the course of like 1,000 years, after meeting all these aliens, there's this gigantic city in space, which is made up of different interconnected bases of different species. And it got so big that they had to shoot it out into space because it was throwing off the gravitational rotation of the Earth. Okay. So there's this like city in space where like 30,000 different species of aliens are represented. I thought that was a really cool idea. And when they're in the city and doing stuff in it, that's where it was the most fun. That's what reminded me of the Star Wars prequels. The very much like Coruscant, where there's like cars flying around and there's like tons of like aliens and stuff all around, like that old Red Letter Media meme. It's so dense. Every frame has so much going on. So that was really cool. I hated the main character. He was a douchebag. Same with pretty much everyone else. Nothing was just that interesting. I kind of just watched it to see what cool visuals I would see next, and that's okay. But when it's a 2.5-hour movie, kind of want some meat in there, kind of want some plot twists and some good dialogue, and I was glad I watched it though. The other one I won't talk too much about, other than there's a controversy attached to it that hurt the movie, I think, to the unfairly. I mentioned it's called Anna. It's directed by Luc Besson in 2019, I think. And right around the time this movie came out, Luc Besson was hit with a Me Too complaint. Oh. And someone alleged that he was sexually inappropriate with her or whatever. And of course, she didn't go to the cops or press charges or anything. She just, tried him on Twitter. And so because of that, and this happened right before the movie came out because, when you're going to accuse someone of sexual harassment, you want to time it just perfect to hurt them as much as possible.
The same thing happened with Louis C.K. was some movie he was supposed to be in, and the female co-star refused to do any promotion or anything for the movie, and it pretty much just died.
Yeah. Well, regardless, maybe this is all true about Luc Besson. I don't know. That's not the point. My problem is this movie was very much hurt by that accusation because, like I said, the distributors pulled out of it. It didn't really get a big release. It kind of got thrown onto streaming pretty quickly. A worldwide gross of $31 million. It doesn't have a budget listed, and it's not a big, huge, expensive-looking movie, but I'm sure it didn't make, 31's not very much. And what really pissed me off is because this movie made very little money, the main character in the movie is a woman named Sasha Luss, who is, she's a successful model, but this was like her first big foray into acting. This is her first big acting role. She's the lead of this movie, and she's great in it. Like, and it's a perfect role for her. She's a model. She plays a KGB soldier who ends up working as a double agent for the CIA, but her cover is that she's a model. So it's perfect for her, but she's really good in the movie. She does a thing where it's hard to pull off, where she's like this... Well, first of all, she's a model, so she's very thin. She's kind of muscular, and she doesn't look weak or frail. But when you have to have fight scenes with fully grown male thugs, to have her beating them up, it often looks weird. Hobbs
and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw is a good example, where they actually kind of pull that off in an interesting way. But in this movie, it actually works because she must have trained really hard because the like martial arts moves she does and the gun combat scene she's in, she really pulls it off. Like, she made me believe that this 120-pound model was beating up 230-pound muscle thugs, and in real life probably wouldn't happen, but she made it look convincing, and that's really hard to do. I thought she was great in this movie, and the fact that this was her big acting debut, and it ended up being in a movie that almost nobody saw because of this online harassment complaint, got the whole movie tanked. Like, the woman who's accusing Luc Besson, fine, maybe he did act inappropriate, so, go to the cops and deal with that, but the fact that she made it such a public thing to ruin this movie, she might have ruined the film career of this young actress who did nothing, and everybody else who worked on the film. So if the director of photography is trying to get this job on the next big Christopher Nolan picture or whatever, I did the principal photography on Anna. Oh, what's Anna? Never heard of that movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It bugs me that when these complaints are made, I'm not saying they're all invalid. If these complaints are real, they should be made. But when they're made so publicly and to damage a film, it doesn't just damage Luc Besson. Like I said, this woman, she has a successful modeling career, so it's not like she's going back to live in her studio apartment on Melrose Boulevard. But she could have been like, oh, this is my big break. I finally get to act. I don't have to do the modeling anymore. Or I can finally do do what I want to do in life. And some woman that she's never met just ruins her chance at that. That really annoyed me. And not only that, this is a really fucking good movie. If you like spy thrillers, this is one of the best spy thrillers I've seen since Atomic Blonde, which I really loved as well. But this is a top-notch spy thriller, and it's on Amazon Prime. I totally recommend it. It's so good. After I watched it, I ordered the Blu-ray the next day because it was so good. So I totally recommend it. It bugs me that
Hollywood eats their own, man.
I guess. And I hate that it's this young actress who this is her first big role, and it's ruined.
Well, I just hate that they have to, if somebody like him is accused or found guilty, it's a shame that they have to destroy the art because of that. Everything else has to suffer. They have to go after the movie. Can't they just go after the person without necessarily going after the movie?
I don't want to dismiss, serious claims out of hand, but it seems to me if the stuff that these people allege really happened, go to the cops.
Right.
You go to the cops. In my mind, if someone is committed some sort of grievous harm against you and you don't go to the police, it must not have been that bad. Sorry, that's how I feel.
Right.
You go to the cops. Unless the cops in your area have been defunded, and then in which case,
Oh, debate for another show.
There's a bunch of other stuff I talked about, but I think in the interest of brevity, we should leave it there. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Not really. Sports is still sports.
Sports is sports. Sports.
It was nice having some baseball to watch this year, even though it was a short season and it's almost over. But it's winter time. That's depressing.
Thought you said that baseball was on hiatus or something?
So it was shut down until the beginning of late July, early August. So they're doing a 60-game season. It's almost over now. It's like 2 weeks and the season's done. Then we get the playoffs, but. They were able to get that back. They were able to get hockey back. I guess all 4 sports are coming back. Just no fans in the audience of most of them except football, because football they just don't care. I mean, they have rapists, murderers, and
dog fighters
playing on their fucking team. So
yeah,
who cares if people are in the stands spreading COVID, right? Fuck. The Washington football team. I mean, fuck. They only now are they doing something about the fucking Redskins name.
Oh, they're finally pulling the trigger.
Well, now it's
been talked about for a long time.
Right, they didn't even come up with another name. They're just the Washington football team.
Is that what they're called?
That's what literally they're called. If you go to the NFL standings, that's how they're labeled, is the Washington football team. Like, you really couldn't come up with a name or do a name the team contest.
There's literally nothing that doesn't offend anybody.
Right. Well, that's kind of the funny thing. I was joking around with Harvey one night, and I was just saying, you know what? You could pick any sports team name, and I bet you could find something wrong with it that somebody would complain.
Yeah.
Like, you got to kill the Angels and the Padres, because that's pushing somebody's religion on somebody. Anything with an animal name in it, Pete is going to be pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Colors have got to go, because we're not supposed to, generalize colors and things like that. Colors are the Dodgers, draft Dodgers, so we can't be mad at them, right? Like, there's so many things. You could find something wrong with pretty much every team name that would offend somebody. So it's just like the Detroit Football Club, the Cleveland Football Club. That's what they'll all be eventually.
Except the Chicago Bears. People are fine with Bears. Oh wait, gay people would complain. Big hairy gay people would complain.
Stop it! You're making fun of us. We're not all QBs, Some of us are still tight ends.
So I was racking my brains to think of what we could do for trivia.
Okay.
And because with only one person here. And I thought, well, maybe Bubs and I can play the Leonard Maltin game. And I thought, nah, Leonard Maltin game's kind of boring now. So what I thought, this is just for a little game to play with you. I'm on this website I've been on here for years called Letterboxd.
Okay.
It's kind of a kind of social media, but not really. It just lets you log the movies you watch, and you can rate them and write little reviews of them. Okay. So I've basically logged pretty much every movie I've watched, and over the past 5 or 6 years, plus movies I watched before that, I posthumously log. I've got 1,065 films logged on here so far.
Wow.
And there's probably some I've missed, but I've logged over 1,000.
You are your own Leonard Maltin game.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't review everyone, but ones I review, I don't like to write huge long paragraphs that nobody's going to read, so I just usually do 1 or 2 sentences. So I thought, and a lot of these I've been looking through them, and I don't even remember writing these reviews, so that's kind of fun for me. I'm going to go through some of the reviews I've written on Letterboxd. I'll give you the year, my star rating, and my review, and you try to guess what the movie is, okay?
Sure.
And we'll go, I don't know, we'll go maybe 10, try to do 10 of them or so. We're not competing, so this is just for fun.
Right.
So, just picking them randomly here. 2016 horror movie, 1.5 stars.
Oh.
My review is, I would have given it an extra star if the blind man would have finished the job. 2016.
Oh, was that 10 Cloverfield Lane? No, he wasn't blind in that, was he?
No.
Blind man in a horror movie. Fuck. Because originally I was thinking The Forest. But I don't remember a blind man in that movie either.
No.
Oh, no, that was not 2016. Wait, that Stupid Bird movie. No, that wasn't 2016.
Stupid Bird movie?
The Bird Box movie.
Oh, I didn't see that.
No. That's the only ones I can think of with blind guys in it. No, I don't know.
Nope. You might remember a horror movie called Don't Breathe.
Oh! Yeah!
Their teenagers are robbing this old
blind
man.
Yeah, blind dude. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like it that much.
No. Isn't there like a really gross scene in that movie too?
Yeah, there's one particular scene.
Yeah.
2019, 3 stars. Really great action scenes, but the movie fell apart when they gave him literal magic powers.
John Wick 3.
John Wick 3. I knew you'd get that one. Trying to find ones where my review is specific enough where you might get it. Oh, here we go. 2003, horror movie, 3.5 stars. I think if you cut out the trippy music... Oh, sorry. I think if you cut out the trippy music video style elements, it would be a much better movie.
In
2003 horror movie. 3.5 stars. I think if you cut out the trippy music video style elements, it would be a much better movie.
It wasn't Saw, was it?
Nope.
Freddy vs. Jason?
Nope.
2003 horror movie. The Hills Have Eyes?
Nope.
I don't know.
Correct answer is House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, yeah, the sequel was so much better.
Oh, way better. I like A House of a Thousand Corpses, but there was like those intercut scenes where like they would show, he would put like random clips, but like inverted colors.
Yeah.
And like scratchy sounds, and it's like, take that shit out. Because that was like Rob Zombie's first movie, and he's only ever directed music videos, so it's like, you gotta get over that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Did you see the sequel to
Yeah, I didn't like it.
3 from Hell?
Yeah,
I didn't like it either.
And I think it was hindered because of the actor's name. The older guy, the actor's name escapes me right off the top of my head.
Oh,
the clown.
Oh, Sid Haig.
Sid Haig.
He died during the filming.
He died, yeah, and he just looked so sick in it, and he was in it so little. I think if you could have done that sequel only a couple of years after Devil's Rejects and had him featured a lot more in it, it had potential to be really good, but this just seemed so sloppy and drawn. I don't know, it didn't work.
2010, action movie, 3 stars. This movie is pretty good except for one huge plot hole. They never found out why Ben Affleck's accent kept disappearing. It's like the main point of the movie and it never gets resolved. Disappointing.
Accent in 2010.
The accent's not part of the movie, it's just in the movie Ben Affleck tries to do a different accent and he sucks at it. So, 2010 action movie. They never found out why Ben Affleck's accent kept disappearing.
Oh, it wouldn't be Daredevil. It was like 2004. It wouldn't be Batman versus Superman.
Nope.
It wasn't Argo because it wasn't really an action movie.
No, not Argo.
The Town?
The Town! Good job. Okay, you'll never get this one, but I have to... You'll never remember the title of this movie, but I know you've seen it, and it's connected to wrestling, so I have to read it. 2016, half a star. Even for a direct-to-DVD action movie starring a wrestler, this is bad. Even if I told you who's in it, you wouldn't remember the name, because these are all forgettable movies. These wrestler movies, unless it's Money Plane.
Well, there was one we saw with Batista in it that wasn't great.
It wasn't that one.
There was a ripoff of Hercules with John Morrison in it.
Not that one. Oh, we did watch that one.
Yeah.
That was fucking bad. That was an Asylum movie. That's how bad that was.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't Fighting with My Family.
I'll tell you who's in it.
Okay.
Kane and Dolph Ziggler. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. Was it that Christmas movie?
No, I don't think so.
No, was it? No, I remember now. Dolph Ziggler was like an action star.
Well, kind of. He was trying to be an action
detective
star
or something. I can see them. Yeah, and for some of it took place backstage at a wrestling show.
Where like Rusev was pointing a gun at him. So ridiculous.
Yeah, right. I'll never guess the title.
It's called Countdown.
Countdown.
Such a memorable name.
Oh, the movie was. Yeah, it was what it was.
All right, try this one. 1990, 2 stars. Before watching it, I was skeptical that this movie was as bad as everyone says it is. I am now a believer.
The Rocketeer?
Nope. 1990. 2 stars.
What was a really bad movie in 1990?
I'm skeptical that this movie is as bad as everyone says it is. I'm now a believer.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
No.
So it wasn't a sequel.
It was a sequel.
It was a sequel.
Yes.
Okay. RoboCop 3?
Nope. Surprised you haven't got it. 3, 2...
Superman 5. No, no, I don't know.
One of the most infamously disappointing sequels of all time, Godfather Part 3.
Oh, God.
Yes.
How many stars did you give it?
2.
Oh, you were generous.
2 out of 5?
Yeah.
I don't think I hated it as much as you did, but I definitely did not like it. All right. You'll get this one, because you've mentioned it already.
Okay.
2016, half a star. This should be shown in film schools as an example of everything you shouldn't do when making a horror movie.
The Forest.
The Forest. Good job. One of the... Honestly, not one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen, because I've seen absolute garbage with like $10 budgets. But for like a movie that was released in theaters, starring an actress who was very hot at the time, fucking garbage.
Yeah. What was that other one? That was the activists went to save some hippie village, right?
The Green Inferno.
That one, yeah, okay. The Forest was the rip-off of the Japanese one where she wanders into
the Suicide Forest.
Yeah.
It starred the girl from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
who played
yeah.
Marjorie Tyrell.
Right.
I think, yeah.
Yes.
Can't remember. Natalie Dormer played. Yeah, pretty very bad. This is one I can't believe I wrote this in 2015. I really regret this because I don't feel this way. 2015, 5 stars.
Whoa.
Sci-fi movie, I guess. I can't believe I wrote this because I don't feel this way anymore. I feel like I'm cheating on Mad Max, but I have to say it. This is my favorite movie of 2015 so far.
Sci-fi.
2015 sci-fi movie. At the time, I gave it 5 stars.
Okay, let me rack my brain of sci-fi movies that we would have seen back then. Not the third Star Trek movie.
No. I wouldn't even say that's a sci-fi movie. I would just call that an action movie.
Right.
I mean, I guess it is sci-fi, but mostly just action.
Interstellar?
Nope. I never saw Interstellar.
The Martian?
The Martian!
Hey,
Good job.
I still like that movie.
I like it too, but Mad Max is way fucking better.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I thought that this was better than Mad Max, because it's not.
No.
It's a good movie, but Mad Max is a masterpiece. Okay. This will be interesting to see if you can remember the name of this movie. 2008, 2 stars. I rewatch. Still disappointed. Some good moments, but a pretty boring Bond movie overall.
Oh, 2008?
Yep.
That'd have to be Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace. Good, you remembered it. That's the one that I always forget the name of because it was so... Good moments, but not a good movie. Like, mostly boring.
I didn't like the cut action scenes. Like the cut scene during every fighting and action. Just so many different camera cuts and edits. It was just, it was driving me fucking nuts.
That's how you cut an action movie in 2008.
Ugh.
Well, I'm sure some of them still do, but that was very...
So obvious.
The Taken movies are bad for that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I still like the first one.
The first one, yes.
The first one's good. Second, remember we saw the third one in theaters? Yeah. I remember nothing about that movie. It was really bad.
Was that the one where he was randomly throwing grenades in the city to help her find where he was?
I don't remember.
There was something where he's like, "Oh, yeah, just throw these grenades and I'll help you find you." What?
I do not remember. Here we go. 2009 comedy, 2 stars. The joke is that he's fat.
I was going to say a Melissa McCarthy movie.
No. 2009 comedy. My whole review is the joke is that he's fat.
Something with Jack Black in it?
No.
Oh. Alright, who's fat? The joke is that he's fat. Oh, man.
Not a movie I would watch. I don't even remember why I watched it. because I knew it would suck. How many stars did I give it? 2? That's generous. 2 is generous. I'd probably give it 1. Any guesses? 3, 2, 1.
Took Jack Black out of the equation. I have no idea.
Correct answer is Paul Blart, Mall Cop.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Every joke in the movie is that he's fat.
Yeah, because immediately Seth Rogen popped into my head, and then Kevin James probably would have popped in sooner than later, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this movie. It's kind of a forgotten movie. 2006, horror. I gave it half a star. My review is more like Stay Awake.
Stay Alive?
Stay Alive! Good job! I totally forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
All I remember is that Frankie Muniz was in it.
Right.
That's all I remember. Oh, okay. This isn't one of the questions, but you had mentioned the John Morrison Hercules movie.
Yeah.
Apparently, I gave it 2.5 stars, and I said for an asylum movie, not nearly as bad as I was expecting. Apparently, I didn't hate it.
No. It's one of John Morrison's best movies.
Yeah. Okay, 2012, sci-fi action. I gave it 3.5 stars. Go back in time and eliminate the kid who starred in this movie, and I'd give it 5 stars. Looper, good job, right off the bat.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, eh?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna read one more. I think we're at 10, or at least close to 10. Okay, here we go. 2012, another sci-fi action movie. Apparently I watch a lot of those. 1.5 stars. 2012. One of the most memorable, visually interesting, and entertaining movies of the 90s, made completely bland, uninteresting, and incomprehensible.
Oh, they did like a sequel?
Yeah, well.
Or a remake.
A remake.
In 2012. Oh, no, it wasn't that long ago, was it? The Independence Day sequel?
No, that was like 2018.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I didn't see it.
It would have been Jurassic World. Total Recall.
Total Recall, exactly. The remake.
Ironically enough. I remember.
Ironically, one of the most forgettable movies.
Giant elevator. That's all I remember.
That, yeah.
And the 3 boob chick that made 0 sense in the context of that movie.
Well, it was in the original, so we gotta have it.
Exactly. But there were no mutants, so it made no sense.
Right. I'll give you one more just for fun.
Alright.
2012, comedy, 2.5 stars. Unfunny, cliche, and bafflingly stupid at times. One of Burton's worst.
Oh, Dark Shadows?
Dark Shadows, good job.
Yeah, that came up the other day because we were talking about the drive-in, and when we went and saw that double feature there, it was like Dark Knight, and then, the second Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, whatever the fuck it was called. And I was like, oh, Johnny Depp, vampire movie, and so he's like, Dark Shadows, like, oh, that's it, yeah. So that's, I remember that now. Yeah.
I wasn't really counting how many we did, but I'm guessing it was like 10 to 12, and you got 8 of them. Good job.
Sweet.
Even though I let you guess multiple times, but it's just for fun. We're not competing against Shweitzer.
No, he probably would have wiped the floor with me.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, that's it for this one. Is there any movies coming out that you're looking forward to? I can't think of any.
I'm so out of the loop on what is coming out because I don't know what they're putting in theaters or what are going directly to streaming anymore. I don't know what Marvel movies are still supposed to come out, other than James Bond.
Yeah, that's probably the next one.
Of a whole lot they're doing this year. That's
going to be a big episode. Because I'm sure I'm going to probably see it 2 or 3 times, and Schweitzer and I are going to probably want to dissect it pretty deep.
I'm on the fence. I got a feeling storyline-wise they might ruin it. The action looks like it might be fun, but I don't know. Maybe going to the well one too many times with this one. We'll see.
I don't know. They just released another trailer, and I wasn't too impressed with it, but I'm withholding all my judgment to actually seeing the movie, so we'll see. But anyway, thanks for continuing to listen, and talk to you next time.